NorCal, 209 King of Comedy. It's Rick without the K. James presents, in my opinion, podcast.
All right, we're back. In my opinion, podcast. Ric James, Adam Dominguez, both of us originally from El Paso. So we got to talk about El Paso comedy. I mean, we're here in Nevada doing comedy together. Who would have thought two people from El Paso would have been fucking in Nevada doing comedy later on in life? El Paso. I said I've been there about 5 months. Excuse me. And before that, I went and did one show. I did a show at, and hopefully I can say all this. It doesn't bring any drama. Because I did a show at Dominique's.
Oh, wow.
Years ago. Oh. It was originally supposed to be me and, I don't know if you know, Ellis Rodriguez.
Yes.
He's a beast, right? I thought I hadn't been home. My older brother was living there. He had a big company, worked with all the car dealerships, body shops, all that shit. Had his own thing going on. So I was like, look, I'll come home. And that was right around the same time my younger brother had just passed his bar and was getting sworn in. So I wanted to be there for that. My mom was like, you better be here. This is the first attorney. Like, all this bullshit, right? Yeah. So I was like, Mom, I'll be there. But I'm broke, so I got to do a show while I'm there. Got on the news. Which is funny, too. I'll talk about that in a minute. But got on the news, tried to sell tickets. Before I went down there, ticket sales were shitty. So I called up Ellis, and I told him, I was like, hey, man, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to pay you and pay for the airplane ticket and all this shit, man. Like, I'm sorry. Those are I said, I thought we were going to do better. So that's how I ended up getting those two on the showcase. And I bring that up only because I wasn't from El Paso comedy scene at that point. I had never really met anybody. I hadn't been home for 5 or 6 years prior to that. And I want to say before that, I hadn't done comedy, I don't think. So I didn't know anything. So I kind of just put it out there. Hey, who is a comic? You want to hit me up, blah, blah, blah. I paid them a little bit. It was, probably not even enough to mention, right? So I don't want to, because I know one of these guys will fucking, and by one of them, I know one of them will, dude, you only paid me 20, like whatever. I know I paid them, but I think it was, like I said, I'll headline, and the only reason I was headlining is because I knew I had family members coming, but I had those family members, like, not supportive family members. So family members that support you will pay for a fucking ticket and not complain.
Yeah, and then you have the other ones who are like... Hey.
And then I have everybody who lives in El Paso that was bitching, like, hey, mijo, are you going to buy me dinner too? I was like... Yep. Like, don't come to the fucking show. Yep. And honestly, I had more stress on that shit because my family was, and then like aunts and uncles didn't want to sit together because they were pissed off with one another. So I don't know if you've ever been in Dominique. It's actually a pretty big room. Mind you, before all this happened, I had hit up Bart and asked him if I could do the show there at Comic Strip. Hey man, I'm from here, blah, blah, blah. Like, and both my brothers were telling me, hey, man, they hand out free tickets. We'll push it that way. Bart told me no. Like, he didn't know who the fuck I was. And sorry, whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. Whatever. So, and I was just looking at it from a standpoint like, hey, man, I'll even do it on an off night or whatever. And he didn't want to do the show, so I found another place. I went and took it there. And hopefully, and I want to say this on camera, because I talked to him. I said, hey, Bart, there was no... I wanted to do the show with you, bro. Like, I didn't want to do it anywhere else. And I was like, but I wanted to do a show and do my shit there. And I think to this day, like I said, we just did the comic strip in March, and it was a better feel. And I kind of, and I've only done the comic strip twice. I've done it with Freeze, and then I did it with Kabir. And Freeze used to open for Charlie Murphy, and been on a bunch of shit himself. So, but it was just a weird feeling. And it now that you get to do comedy outside of El Paso, it's one of those things where it's like...
Because that's the weird part, is that like everybody who moved out of El Paso is doing great right now. Israel Garcia, actually, I just text him right now. He's headlining in replacement of Raymond Horta, actually in El Paso as a homecoming show, along with Rafa Molina, who's there to visit family. Right, Rafa toured around with Willie, and kind of Willie took him under his tutelage. Israel went the South Texas route and started touring around with the fucking, we call them the Texas, the Godfathers, the Dons, right? Mm-hmm. And South Texas, you can't get any bigger than Horta, Raymond Horta. That dude will fucking sell out a goddamn arena in South Texas on his own, just his fucking name power. And then
Israel's like Chingo Bling or some shit.
And Israel's opening for Chingo Bling now.
Oh, okay.
Right? So Israel's doing all this, that whole entire mess, right? Jabron the Magician had originally opened up for Penn and Teller, did all this stuff, now centralized back home, and he's doing his own thing. Patrick Candelaria used to be like this huge USO tour, used to tour around Freddy Soto, do all this other stuff, and now he's back home because he had a kid, right? George Jimenez was also a big touring guy. Everybody who was from there used to be some sort of heavy hitter.
This is what I wanted to skim about, not really stay too much about, because again, I'm not in that scene, nor do I ever want to be, because I live outside, and I where I live there's actual comedy clubs, and I get to see national fucking headliners come through every Friday night. I get to see the Wayans brothers. I've worked with Charlie Murphy. I've met Angela Johnson. You know what I mean? And we're talking about every fucking, and being in Vegas, you guys must see it now too, right? Just bam, 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 bam. With national, where El Paso, it's not like that. When they get a Carlos Mencia now, they think it's Carlos Mencia 2004 still. Where I'm like, dude, it's not. He's not even really enjoyed in the comedy community, dummies.
I used to open for Carlos when he first used to go over there. They still hold up that.
And it's one of those things where we went to the show, and Kabir, because he was doing a comic strip, he probably wasn't supposed to be at any other mic anyways, right? So I'll probably have to edit that stupid shit out. But mind you, Bart, he didn't even go up. I tell people it's the different mindset. It's, why wouldn't you make friends with somebody like that? Because Kabir does run shit in the Bay Area. When you get out to the Bay, or you want to go visit a weekend, and you want to take your wife that you're always posting about, and be like, hey, Kabir, can you throw me on some shit? Kabir's one of the nicest fucking dudes, that he's not that dickhead that will put you up and let you be on his goddamn show and get a guest set when he can, and you're in his territory. So for comics out in El Paso, I would just say, like, you have to, unless you never want to leave El Paso, unless you're never gonna fucking leave El Paso, and for that matter, any little town like that, then keep that mindset. But if you want to be able to hit the road and do some comedy elsewhere, then learn how to build bridges and not fuck up shit, especially because you're stuck in that fucking community, man.
Yeah. So my favorite thing I used to tell the comics that would come by and visit is I'd say, hey, come out to Vegas and eat shit out here, right? Like, I want you to eat shit out here. So, because when you go back home and you're like, I ate shit out there too, I got to change something. There's something that clicks, right? Yeah. If a comic that comes out to Vegas, comes out to Cali, and murders it and does great, and then they go back and they realize that all that little petty bullshit, the big fish shit, is not real. It's never been real, right? That dude will get toppled fast if one of us just to fucking, hey, I'm gonna spend the next year in El Paso. You want to do a weekly show? Just fucking sell it out every goddamn week. If you and I just teamed up, let's go, right? And guess what? That big fish, it's fucking gone. We're going to have the bigger show because we've got the bigger connections, because and it's not even us flexing connections. It's just because we have the experience and the fucking mindset of like, hey guys, there's a bigger world out there. This isn't it. This is a weird mound to just be big on, To die on this hill is like a stupid martyr thing.
And I think, where I kind of cut us off on the last topic, because I wanted to bring up Freddy Soto, who is from El Paso. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching his, what is it now? I was going to say Comic View, Comedy Central. And I want to say that was better than Three Amigos. I liked that version because it was pretty much the same jokes, right? With one or two variations of the jokes. But I liked the Comedy Central, which means he had to be cleaner, right?
Yeah.
Than Three Amigos. And I liked that version better, but I was like, it just amazed me. But then I heard, like, I didn't realize he was the driver for fucking Richard Pryor and all this other shit. So obviously, again, it was taking himself out of El Paso to make him a better comic. Yep. And I just felt like when I did live there for 5 weeks, I kind of found it comical because one, I would either go watch comics because it's such a small community out there. The regular person doesn't know that you're stealing jokes. The funniest jokes that I heard out in El Paso was, and that dude murdered. It was some white dude. And I kept telling, I don't even think he was a comic. He was just telling a funny ass story, but I couldn't stop laughing. And he was talking about how he used to smoke crack, and he went to an AA meeting, and he was gonna stop smoking crack until somebody got up in front of him. And when he started hearing the amounts that guy was smoking, he goes, "Fuck that! He's not gonna smoke more crack than me." He goes, "I left, and I had to smoke more crack than him." Like, just hearing that shit just blew my mind, where I was like, I know, again, I tell people, for me, when it comes to anything, when it comes to playing basketball, when it comes to telling jokes, when it's that line in The Wire that I've probably repeated 3 or 4 times on this podcast, is you can't run with the wolves. No, you can't play with the puppies at day and then run with the wolves at night. You know what I mean? Meaning you've got to be kicking it around people that are at the same level or above you to elevate your game. Yep. You know what I mean? Kobe didn't want to go play, when he was in high school with a bunch of fucking elementary kids. He wanted to play against NBA players and shit. Like, and that's the way I see it.
Not being present. And I think a lot of comics try to remember a script as opposed to being like, okay, let's see where I'm at. I'm going to kind of tailor, you saw the competition, yeah, right? Here, right? Majority, I can't remember who said it, but they were saying that, if a black comic would have come out here and saw this whole entire wave of, like, older white people, that a lot of the black comics in my scene would have just been like, fuck this, right? And that's kind of sad. Like, that's kind of sad that you're not even going to fucking try, you know? Yeah. And I think that's what happens is no one ever wants to be present in that moment. They see the fire that's in front of them and they're afraid of cooking, And in El Paso, it literally turns into what's your goal? And it's just not just El Paso, it's a bunch of small towns and fit this to where it fits, right? But you guys see that glass ceiling. Oh, was that all you're gonna be? You're just gonna be a host at the local club? Y luego, okay, what are you gonna do next after? What are your plans after that? Do you want to go travel? Do you want to become like a touring feature? Do you want to be a touring headliner? Okay, cool. Tour.
I tell people, man, and if you've never heard this, hopefully you hear this the way I'm going to give it. And it's only because Freeze Love, who was also on Malcolm and Eddie, he was the mechanic on Malcolm and Eddie. He's been on a bunch of shit, and he started featuring for Charlie. And he goes, man, I will tell you, Charlie took care of me while I was on the road 7+ years with that man. He goes, but what I didn't realize is because I got caught up into the money, is he goes, nobody came to fucking see me. No. He goes, not one person. And he goes, when I started, you got to understand, Charlie Murphy didn't even start comedy till 2005, right? Till after the Dave Chappelle shit. He was a great writer, did a bunch of shit. CB4, one of the funniest movies ever, right? But he goes, I just felt like when I started, I had to give Charlie some of the game, and I was funnier, and the crowds knew it, but nobody was there to see me. He goes, and it wasn't until later on, after touring with him, that I realized, and especially when he stopped touring with Charlie, he goes, that's kind of why I did, is because I'm out here for myself. It's the same thing. Like, I love working with Kabir, but I don't want to be known as Kabir's feature.
Yeah,
that's the reason why we're in here podcasting. Kabir's out getting drunk. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I tell people I'm trying to make my own fucking lane, and especially nowadays, I tell people it's not about how funny you are. It's about how many fucking followers you have. I said, I don't do this podcast because I want to. I'm not fucking sitting editing video after video. But I know last night we had maybe 80 people there. Maybe I got an extra fan or two.
Yeah.
But I dropped this video, and I might get 10 or 20. So I'm better off just doing the video, right? You know what I mean? So I'm just doing the math and the analytics behind it, where I'm like, as much as I don't want to do this and I'd rather be on stage, this is a have to now.
Yeah, and especially you got to consider the fact of we go through another shutdown, right? And we already went through one, and you took away the stages. How do you think comics coped, right? I found live streaming. I live stream, right? Where a friend of mine turned me on to Twitch, and I would just turn on the camera. I'd put a little donation link. Hey, help me pay my bills, but I'm just gonna talk. I'm gonna tell you kind of crazy, fucked up stories and everything. And then it went really well. For those people who are following me on Twitch and who are watching this, thank you. You guys got me through a real dark time, and you helped me pay my bills, right? But the thing is that, like, if that happens again, what other avenues? If they take away the stage, you know you can be funny elsewhere. You know that you can gain followings elsewhere. Create the content, keep putting the work. It's every El Paso comic knows my fucking motto was always ABC, fucking always be content. Because we're never going to be content. We're never going to be settled. We're not satiated, right? We want the next
I think
thing.
that's what makes you a good comic, though.
Boy, Charlie Murphy, my main man, Ric James. That's the one you think, the comedian Ric James. Get up.
I can't hear my neighbor crying, I can't breathe.
Please hit the subscribe button down low so you can see all new clips, all new episodes coming to you.